Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Tom Soane here. And so I'm coming out to you live here. I'm not coming out to you live here. I'm going live to you all here to give you a quick rundown of the Samuel Leeds interview, which went live this morning. So look, this one's been quite mental for me. It's the biggest interview I've done really, but mainly because of everything surrounding Samuel Leeds. Good and bad. So I just wanted to come out onto this live broadcast now, talk you through everything that I asked Samuel Leeds so that you can decide whether you want to actually listen to the podcast or not. But also I'm welcoming feedback about what sort of questions I could have asked him, what sort of content I could have included in the podcast. Because look, hey, I'm not a trained interviewer. I'm just a property investor and letting agent who just decided to launch a podcast a few months ago. So, you know what? I welcome any education, tips and advice for anybody that could help me in improving my next interview. I'm not too proud to admit that. So anyway, the Samuel Leeds interview is out now and I've posted some comments in here. Good morning, Andrea. Nice to have you along. I've posted some comments in there. Maybe I've done that about 2 or 3 times, but the Samuel Leeds interview is now live. So what questions did I ask him? What can you expect to see or hear in that podcast? Well, first of all, obviously there's loads of stuff that I could have asked him, but my entire goal here was to really bring content that's going to be of interest to my followers and my listeners. Nothing else is more important to me. So I hope I did that, and hopefully, anyway, the questions are: number one, I asked Samuel to talk us through his first property purchase, how he financed it, why he bought it, and then his property investment journey thereafter. So what properties he bought, how much profit did he make, how he bought them, how he financed them, how much they cost and why he bought them, and so on and so on. Because I think, you know what, that's for me, really. I'm fascinated with any property investor and in learning how they bought property, why they bought property, and all of those things. And do you agree with that? I mean, it doesn't matter about, forget Samuel Leeds for a second, but any property investor, I love learning how they actually bought property, what their mindset was, what their thought process was, their strategies, and so on. I always think that's really, really interesting. What about you guys? Anyone else have anything that you would want to ask other property investors or want to know from other property investors? And by the way, could you just let me know that the links went into the comments below, because I'm using this system called StreamYard here, which sends me out live to a few different places. So I just want to make sure it's working. I've put the comments hopefully in the comments below, the link, sorry, in the comments below. And by the way, it's a ClickFunnels link because there are a few different platforms that host my podcast, like Apple and Spotify and Podbean and so on, and Amazon and Google. So I've put a link to a landing page and you could just select which one you listen to the podcast on. There's no selling, there's no nothing. It's all, oh, brilliant. Thanks, Andrea. Appreciate that. How are you, Andrea, by the way? Good to have you along. Right, so I also asked him what his phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3 goals are, and also his plan. So if you've been following me for a little while, you know that I have a phase 1, 2 and 3, which is my financial freedom, number 1, my life freedom, number 2, and my dream freedom goal, number 3. My dream freedom's the £83,333 and 33 pence per month in net profits. That's my target. Come on, hopefully I get there. Might take some time, but that's my target and that's what I'm going for. Think big, huh? Think big. Anyway, I also asked Samuel Leeds if he's had any bad experience in property investing and that other people could learn from, which he very kindly shared some information about. And then I asked him probably my favorite question to ask property investors: if you had no money, no friends, no contacts, how would you raise money and how would you get into property investment? So I asked that same question to pretty much everybody I've interviewed, I think. So I asked that to Samuel Leeds. I asked it to Rob Moore, if you remember that. David Siegler, Sally Lawson, all of the interviewees. So hopefully he gave a good answer on this one. What areas of the country does Samuel Leeds have his eye on for investment? And I always think that's a good question, puts people on the spot. And also I think that tests, people's knowledge of the country, of the property industry around the country, but also hopefully it gives other people tips and hints about where they could look for outside of their own areas. I asked Samuel who inspires him and who does he relate to in property. And I also asked him, of course, I gave myself a little plug because I asked him what the anonymous landlord means to him as a philosophy, as a mentality and a quality of life. And again, if you've all been following me and listening to my podcasts, then you know what the anonymous landlord actually is. So I asked him what it means to him. And then we got into the juicy stuff for a lot of people. And we all have to be quite mindful here because there are some people that see Samuel Leeds for certain things, and there are other people that see Samuel Leeds for other things. Personally, I have no loyalty, connection. I've never met him, never done any of his training. I've never been associated with him. I just interviewed him because I thought it would be interesting to people. And I've got to admit, for different reasons, since starting this little publicity thing that I'm doing, just sharing that I've done the podcast so that people can actually listen to it. There's been a lot of people that have very different feelings about Samuel. And so I asked him about those controversial points, or some of them. There was so much I could have asked him. We could have done a whole day of questioning and questioning and questioning. But anyway, so first of all, I asked him about Alan Sugar. I know that whole thing where people have different opinions and different ideas and theories. But I asked him straight out, what actually happened with Alan Sugar? What is the situation? And he gave a pretty long answer on that one. I also asked him about the advice that he gives in his training. And I also asked him the question which a lot of people have asked me since and asked if I asked. So I'll share that with you. I asked him, look, Samuel, how many properties do you actually own? That was the question. And lots of people have different ideas about that. So look, there was a big discussion about this, and I tried to separate this podcast, by the way, into 3 sections, because as I said just now, I'm very aware there are people that look at him and want to learn from him and his property investment journey. That's this type of person. There are other people that look at him for the controversial element and the stuff that they hate about him and disagree with him about. And there are other people that are interested in listening to him about his training. Now, obviously, I can't make everybody happy at all times. That's just physically impossible. So I tried to split the interview into 3 sections to try and give some content that everybody would want to listen to. Now, of course, that's what a podcast is, isn't it? You put stuff out there that people want to listen to. There's no point in me doing a podcast if I just do stuff that people don't want to listen to, right? Anyway, so I asked him those things as well. I also asked him about his training, what sort of training he does, what he teaches, what his philosophies are, and so on and so on. I asked him what inspired him to get into training, because obviously, he started off just as a property investor and then he's gone into the training world as well. So I was interested to find out how he made that transition. I asked him to give us some information about some of the students that he's got that have succeeded, and also the most common mistakes that he sees now in training his pupils. What sort of mistakes does he see from those people that other people can learn from? And then quite an interesting one to finish it up was I gave him 1 minute to train me on buy, refurbish, refinance, which was, he went into full flow on that one. So that was quite interesting. But look, overall, this interview with Samuel Leeds was, definitely the most controversial interview I've ever done in life, not just on this podcast, in life. And So I must admit, I did start to ask myself, why am I doing this interview? And I kept on trying to remind myself why. And the facts are, I thought, as I just said, I thought it would be of interest to my followers and my listeners. That's why I tried to separate it into 3 sections of a podcast. So again, there are a lot of people in the country, and everybody's entitled to an opinion. And everybody's entitled to disagree with an opinion as well. I think that's important to say. But there are a lot of people that have very mixed emotions about Samuel Leeds. So I thought that was very important to, I guess, highlight their views as well. Again, like I say, I could have gone for hours asking tons and tons and tons of questions. But actually, you know what? I tried to just get some out and some content into it about the controversial stuff. So hopefully I did that well. But anyway, also another reason I did this is because I love challenging myself. I love testing myself and trying to improve and grow and grow and grow. I love doing that. So this was a big, massive test for me personally, to see if, first of all, I could win a big name. And whether you like him or hate him or don't know him, Samuel Leeds is a massive name in the property world. So for me, it was a big test to see if I could win an interview with someone with such a high profile, and then a massive test to see if I could actually interview them. I've heard so many people say that Samuel only does interviews where he controls the interview and he turns it into him interviewing. But I actually think I controlled this interview. I think I managed it. I think I steered the conversation and asked the questions accordingly. So I'm very pleased with it. But I really do want to know your opinions on that because, hey, I'm always learning. I've only been doing a podcast for 3 months. So any feedback is welcome. But if you abuse me, then I'll give you a social media slap in the face, so to speak. I'm not talking about, no one needs to be personally abused. If you've got something to say, then obviously say it. I want the education. I want to learn. I want to be the best interviewer and podcaster that I can be. So I also wanted to ask Samuel Leeds about those controversial points for myself. You know, I've seen loads of YouTube videos and I've seen all these things that come out and everybody's saying different things about him and loads of things. A lot of those things are very similar. But I wanted to say to Samuel Leeds, so what actually happened here? Come on. How many properties do you actually own? Come on. Give us the actual figures. Give us the actual answers. What advice are you actually giving in your training about debt? That was it. I mean, I asked him quite heavily about giving advice about getting into debt. You know, and everyone's got mixed views on that. And everyone's got their own opinions on getting into debt for property investing. Alan Sugar, come on, tell me about it. But look, yeah, I mean, as I say, and I don't mean this to sound wrong, but I don't have any loyalty to Samuel Leeds. My loyalty is to my followers, my listeners, and anybody who wants to follow and wants to listen or wants to watch. That's where my loyalty lies. I've never been on his training courses. And really, I think I've never been on his training courses because I think I know more than him, or at least I know enough in my world to I guess, be the best I can be. So I don't think I would get any value from his training courses. I can't say that or not. I don't know. But anyway, I've been doing this for 20 odd years and I think that I wouldn't benefit from them. But hey, that's my opinion. But I've never met him. I don't know him. I've you know, it was just something that I thought, hey, I've got to interview Samuel Leeds, and my agenda is 100% you guys, 100% what you guys want and what you guys want to listen to. Now, of course, you will all make your own minds up about Samuel Leeds, and I urge you to do so. And, you know, be honest with yourself. If you like him, then cool. If you don't like him, then fine. Everybody's entitled to that. And different people are going to be interested in different things. And there are, of course, very mixed views. But do you know what? I hope this interview contains something for everyone. That was my agenda. To question him on his own property journey, to question him on some of the controversial areas that he's currently involved in, and also question him on his training. which I did. So bearing in mind when you listen to this, I obviously have to keep it interesting to everybody as much as I can. So yeah, there you go. So that is the interview. Now, again, I've posted the comments in there. I've posted the link in there. So you click that link and then decide if you want to listen to it on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Google, Amazon, wherever. And then, yeah, let me know. Send me a message, actually. If you've got some feedback, constructive feedback for me as the interviewer, then I'd love to hear that. That would be awesome. And especially if anybody is experienced in interviewing, that would be really good. I'm not really, I won't be getting into any arguments with anybody about what they think about Samuel Leeds. That's for you. If you have an opinion on him, hey, I welcome you to have your own opinion on that. But certainly, I'm thinking about doing my own review of the Samuel Leeds interview, and I'd be interested to find out what everyone thinks. If everyone thinks I should do that or not. Do you think I should do a review of the Samuel Leeds interview myself? Woo, getting into it, really, hey? What's this from Andrea here? Tom, you are awesome and an inspiration. I'm drinking it all in and learning and planning to be on that ARL stage in the very near future. Go on, Andrea, you can do it. You can do it, I promise you. Go for it. Oh, I'm really pleased. And thank you for that. Those kind words. You're very kind. So look, Samuel Leeds' interview is out now. I've just been through everything that I've asked him. There were a few other little bits in there as well, but just conversational points. And I hope you enjoy it. And if you don't, that's up to you. I'll move on to the next interview. I've got a few more lined up, a few big ones as well. Maybe not quite as controversial as Samuel Leeds, but I've got one reasonably controversial one coming up. I've got a few real experts in different parts of the property industry coming up too. So you're all welcome to listen. You're all welcome to love it or hate it. But either way, I love you all. So as always, this is just one little part of you being the best version of yourself that you can be. And remember, if you're going to be the best version of yourself at one thing, go and be the best version of yourself at everything. And as always, my name is Tom Soane, and this is the Anonymous Landlord.